they aren't like they're okay attacking somebody in the street.
Going out in full makeup, normally not a concern for Plouffe, but this series of events at We Trans Support have left a glaring question behind.
When I hear about this and when I see things like this on social media, it makes me wonder, how safe am I really in my community?
It's disturbing, definitely, considering the fact that I think a lot of people think of Canada as a really tolerant and accepting place.
Windsor police say they're investigating this series of incidents as a hate crime, but is looking to the public to provide footage and any information that might lead to a suspect. For Aria, he's worried that this vandalism is just another chapter in a continued chain of violence.
These attacks are nothing new, unfortunately. We're not a scary group of people, right? We want people to understand us and we want people to respect us. It's about respect and it's about education.
But those in the LGBTQ community say there has been one bright spark in this whole situation. Messages of hope and solidarity, condemning the actions of whoever's responsible for this week-long series of vandalism. And for an organization that has spent years giving a support system to those looking for one, the messages are a sign that Windsor-Essex is ready to support them. Sanjay Maru, CBC News, Windsor.
The City of Windsor has passed the 2021 budget. The big points here: no residential tax increase and that one-time COVID-19 deficit of $38 million. There is permanent funding for a second street outreach worker. A motion to add a third failed. There's more money for housing, and Transit Windsor will get a pilot project. But some are raising concerns about what the budget didn't seem to include. CBC's Dan Takema has a story.
Windsor remembers this scene from 2016 and this, again, in 2017. In 2019, the city declared a climate change emergency. At the time, the declaration was described as an important step forward and was aimed at considering the region's climate future. Just 2 years later, the city has passed its 2021 budget, but some shared concerns about a lack of action on climate.
Without concrete changes in the way the city allocates its funds, that declaration is meaningless.
The City Council stated that reducing emissions and preparing for Windsor-Essex County's climate future are deemed to be high priorities when considering budget direction. The budget in front of you today does not reflect that sense of priority.
To create a budget without much emphasis on climate is to ignore the cries from youth around the world to care about our future.
Windsor's city engineer says staff are aggressively pursuing projects focused on the environment. He says climate change and our various environment-based plans are embedded into our capital planning process. In this year's capital budget, climate change is only mentioned a handful of times. One project administrator who does outreach work on climate issues was also funded for another year. Meanwhile, the communities around Windsor have made climate change a top priority. Essex County has created a climate change task force and anticipates presenting a plan to mitigate issues today and plan for the future.
Make no mistake, it is critical for us to look at what's transpired in our communities in the last 5 years. We've seen more 100-year storms. We've seen shorelines battering and causing massive erosion issues.
McNamara says climate change is a crisis that isn't going away and something the whole region needs to focus on together. Dan Takema, CBC News, Windsor.
The popular Parklet program for restaurants in Windsor has been approved for another year.
And I hope that our businesses can actually use this going forward to recover a little bit, because it's going to take a few years for the businesses to recover.
The temporary outdoor patios allow for more capacity, which was helpful when COVID-19 restrictions limited the number of people allowed inside. The city's going to waive the usual fees. Administration's also been instructed to work with establishments to waive some licensing fees as well. The chair of the Downtown Windsor BIA is thrilled that the program's back. Parklets will be allowed between April 1st and mid-November, with the possibility of extending that if necessary. Food halls are also returning to Lansbury Park.
Transportation is very vital to get to class, to get somewhere. So it was a relief to see that they are willing to listen and to work with
The head of St. Clair College's Student Council right there, happy to hear that an express bus route from the east end of Windsor to the college has been approved in the budget process. It'll be a pilot project. Ward Councillor Fred Francis worked on the deal with the college to fund the route that will start in the fall. Now, Francis voted against a tax increase in last year's budget, calling the 2.1% proposed then too rich for his liking. That was just before the pandemic hit Windsor and the gigantic price tag that followed. I ask him what he makes of that decision now.
I voted against it, and I think I recall saying that the uncertainty is just too great for a tax increase right now, and we could have whittled that down a little bit more. Any flexibility we could have had last year, we could have used. For instance, if the federal and provincial government didn't come out with full COVID funding, we would have been in trouble. And now we're working at a $38 million hole in 2021. If the feds in the province don't step up, we're going to be in trouble. There's going to be significant challenges in 2022. So I think looking back on that, I think my stance was proven right with the amount of uncertainty and the financial impact.
What happens next year, though? Because in that report, they also speak about in the budget this year how lean everything is, and there may not be as much wiggle room in our city as there are in other communities because of that push to hold the line. If the budget doesn't come through from the federal and provincial government on that $38 million, is this something that gets passed on to taxpayers next year or goes through services?
That's where tough decisions are going to have to be made. It's going to be, it's scary. From my perspective, from an elected official perspective, that's the worst nightmare. That's the worst case scenario is how do you come up with $38 million that you didn't see coming, that you didn't budget for? Obviously, we have contingencies. Obviously, we have tools within our toolbox to deal with that. Do we have to revamp the $1.5 billion capital budget? Do we have to look at, service reviews? Do we have to look at potentially even taking on debt to cover that? Those are options I don't want to think about right now. I have confidence in the federal and provincial governments to step up. Toronto's in a lot worse off financial shape with COVID than we are. So I can't imagine the feds in the province leaving it to municipalities to kind of just handle it on their own. So I'm expecting some help from the senior levels of government. I'm hoping that it's dollar for dollar help to make us whole, but I can't guarantee that. So, I hope and I pray for the best, but we have to be prepared to, do what we have to do to ensure that we're able to navigate through this crisis reasonably in a prudent way.
One thing we all can enjoy on a day like today is what it was like outside. One of those days where you roll down the windows, you enjoy the wind, you feel like spring might actually come. Colette Kennedy is going to join us next with a look at the forecast. The Trudeau government and the newly elected Biden administration had its first bilateral meeting today, a virtual one because of the pandemic, which is high on the roadmap list.
The United States has no closer friend than Canada. That's why you were my first call as president, my first bilateral meeting, and we're all best served when the United States and Canada work together and lead together.
We're also going to talk about climate change, and thank you again for stepping up in such a big way on tackling climate change. U.S. leadership has been sorely missed over the past years.
Now, top priorities include the common fight against COVID-19, rebuilding economies on both sides of the border, and there's also a plan for high-level climate meetings to tackle environmental issues. Canada is expected to bring up the two Michaels imprisoned in China for more than 2 years now. If you've got time this week, try and pop out to Lakeview Marina because that place is just absolutely beautiful right now. Look at some of these little buddies that we've been finding here. I've been so excited to share this video all day today. I didn't expect to see that when I popped out there. I've seen boats in the marina, but the ice covered off. There's someone ice fishing over there. Clearly wasn't alone. We were all enjoying the ducks, the swans, fighting over the fish there. Let's bring in Colette Kennedy here because I know that she's going to enjoy this too. Anytime we can see something like that, it's just magic there, hey?
That is magic. That is a beautiful sight. I love the reveal too. Nicely done, where you don't realize how many are there. The water is really nice color too, so things look good. Yeah, kind of these signs of spring, and it's easy to feel that when your temperature goes up to 8 degrees today, feeling a little spring-like, eh? And we're not even out of February yet. Here's what we're looking at, though. With some of that milder air and those winds easing up overnight tonight, some patchy fog developing. Otherwise, it's just kind of partly cloudy skies, and then clouds increasing as we go towards dawn. A chance of some light precipitation on Wednesday, and I put it like that instead of just saying one form or the other, because we're likely going to get a bit of a mix. Where we see it, some wet flurries, kind of like showers or drizzle at times. Most of this, though, stays to the north and east, so it's going to be very, very scattered, very light in nature, and then we get a run of sunshine coming. Now, it's a little cooler towards the end of the week, but really mild towards the weekend, and several days, about 4 it's looking like, where we're going to have some form of sunshine. And with 2 of those with really mild temperatures, pretty phenomenal this upcoming weekend is looking. It's still a few days out, so I'll keep an eye on it for you. Make sure it keeps in line there. 7 degrees is now our current temperature after that high of 8. A little cooler, Chatham-Kent with that wind there, 3 degrees. But the wind gusts, I'll show you what happens. So they're not so strong, then that's how that fog can develop tonight. Then as we go into Wednesday, because this next system is passing by, although the core of it is well to the north of us, 10 to 15 centimeters of snow coming to northeastern Ontario, it's still going to kick up those winds, first from the south in the early part of the day, and then they'll shift towards the west. They'll back off a little bit, but still be a bit breezy in there. Quieter night tonight. These are winter weather travel advisories because of this system that is going to be moving through into tomorrow. But you see how most of the moisture pulls to the north. We may see a little bit of backdoor showery activity or that little bit of a mix coming our way, and then high pressure builds in and sunshine is coming for several days. I just want to say that again. Okay, your overnight temperatures there close to freezing. Tomorrow highs, not like today, about half the number, 4 degrees. But look at what's going to be happening on the weekend, where those numbers are headed for a couple of days there, Chris.
No, that'll be see. You love the sun, I love the ducks. We got a little bit of everything in tonight. This is great.
Good show.
Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Tiger Woods is in hospital after an accident in Los Angeles. Coming up, we'll have the latest on his situation.
Pretty much.
Tiger Woods has been taken to hospital after being injured in a serious car accident near Los Angeles. The sheriff's office says that they saw no evidence of impairment at the crash scene. Rescuers had to extricate the golf star who was trapped in this wreckage here. His manager says Woods suffered multiple leg injuries when his SUV rolled over and required surgery. Woods was alone in the car, no other vehicle involved in the accident, and it happened around 7 in the morning local time, 10 o'clock here. His overall condition is unclear at this time. The 45-year-old golfer was in the area to attend a tournament last weekend, although he wasn't playing. In 2017, Woods was found asleep at the wheel of a car, arrested on a drunk driving charge. He said that he had an unexpected reaction to prescription medication for back pain. U.S. politicians are hearing from the people who are responsible for security at the Washington Capitol building and what went wrong last month when a riot there left 5 people dead. They're blaming bad intelligence as one of the reasons why they weren't prepared.
As recent as Tuesday, January 5th, during a meeting I hosted with my executive team, the Capitol Police Board, and a dozen of the top law enforcement and military officials from D.C., no entity, including the FBI, provided any new intelligence regarding January 6th.
Former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund said the scene on January 6th was like nothing he had seen in his 3 decades of law enforcement. He testified that Capitol Police were properly prepared for a mass demonstration with possible violence, but were faced instead by a military-style coordinated assault and violent insurrection. 3 of the 4 people testifying today resigned immediately following the attack, and that includes Sund. Time now for a story about a really big cat caught in the henhouse.
Let's go see the damage you did, buddy. Yeah? Should we go see the damage you did? How many chickens did you get? Hey, you got some of our new ones.
Now that there is one bad kitty. By the sound of that growling, angry as well. Chris Paulson holding that lynx by the scruff of the neck after it attacked his chickens on his farm near Prince George. His wife caught the whole thing on camera. Paulson says he gave the big cat a scolding, bundled it into a dog kennel, and relocated farther away from the farm and the bush. But first, he let the lynx keep 2 chickens it killed as a parting gift. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We live stream the show on Facebook and Twitter as well. The Rick Mercer Report is up next. Thanks for watching.